the Senior Manager of Research. On behalf of IHRSA and the retention people, I'm happy to welcome you to our webinar today. Today we'll be discussing the Net Promoter Score and specifically how it relates to the health club industry. We'll also show you how you can be a part of a new member loyalty Net Promoter Score study IHRSA and the retention people are conducting together. Now, many of you may already know that the NPS has been used by several leading businesses, including Apple and IBM, as a way to measure customer satisfaction and loyalty. You may have even noticed in the IHRSA CBI Club Business International magazine issue in November, we conducted a short Q&A with Fred Reichelt, who introduced the Net Promoter Score measure. So IHRSA, we are conducting the study first to establish a benchmark for the North American health club industry and to improve our understanding of member loyalty as well. It's also our goal today to help you understand how the Net Promoter Score is measured and what a specific score means to your club. We're happy to be partnering with the retention people in this important study since they've conducted a similar project in the UK. And today we have Phil Bonomo with us from the retention people. Phil Bonomo is the Director of TRP North America. Phil is responsible for overall business development and marketing, and he also oversees retention coaching and consultancy for all North American TRP clients. We're thrilled to have Phil with us here today, and we're also happy to offer the NPS survey as a member-only benefit. So without further ado, Phil, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks very much, Melissa, and it's a real pleasure to be here with you this afternoon, and hope you're all having a great day and all of your holiday shopping is going as planned. We're hoping that the next hour will be an enjoyable one, an interactive one, and an opportunity for you to really understand what we're doing in the North American market relative to member loyalty and how we're looking to track that and how we're looking to really provide you as fitness club operators a real solid metric for understanding how loyal are your members really. Before we go into the presentation, just a couple of housekeeping things that I want to mention to you, and that is you'll see on your GoToWebinar control panel, you'll see an audio mode, and the recommendation there is use your mic and speakers if you have a built-in speakers in your computer. You'll get a much better audio experience. You can also minimize or maximize your control panel. And if you have any issues relative to the audio quality and you want to bring our attention to it, we will just click on that raise your hand, and we'll notice it, and we'll deal with your audio issues to make sure that you have a good and an effective webinar experience. So let's move into the topic. One thing that I want to mention too is throughout this presentation, you do have that opportunity in the toolbar to ask questions, and I would definitely recommend that you do ask questions. What we'll do is we'll aggregate the questions that come in during the presentation, and then once the presentation is concluded, we'll ask Melissa to ask the questions so you're all able to hear the questions, and then I'll do my level best to answer those questions as well. So let's talk a little bit about our outline today. Firstly, we want to give you a pretty complete introduction to the Net Promoter Score and to really understand why we feel it's an effective and appropriate gauge for member loyalty in the fitness industry. We have just completed a Net Promoter Score survey in 2012 in the UK. Now, the UK is the home base of the retention people. We've been in business now for about 10 years. We are a research-based organization currently serving about 1,000 fitness facilities worldwide, and our focus is completely on improving health club member retention. So we've developed a number of programs, software services, coaching, consulting, etc. around Health Club member retention. But first and foremost, we are a research organization, and we have our roots in the UK, and we're now happily embedded in the North American market and actually growing on a global basis. Additionally, we're going to introduce the IHRSA TRP benchmark study. We'll talk about the study and when we're going to report the results of this study. And we'll also show you some of the great features and benefits you as operators will enjoy from participating in the study. And then there'll be a time, hopefully ample time, for questions and answers. And we do hope that you'll be able to give us at least up to, or at max actually, up to 3 o'clock Eastern Time. So in another 50 minutes or so, if you can stay with us, that would be terrific. And we'll answer the questions at the end, but we will absolutely hard stop in 50 minutes so you can get back to your daily tasks. To start, I'd really like to talk a little bit about promoting. And promotion and loyalty are often two terms that are very much used when you're purchasing consumer products and services. And here on the screen we see a number of brands that that I'm sure many of you feel an affinity for. You may be an Amazon promoter because you find it's a convenient way to search and shop for the goods that you need. You may be a JetBlue promoter because JetBlue gives you that extra 3 or 4 inches of leg room and the direct TV on every flight that makes something that can be as onerous as an airline flight actually a fairly enjoyable experience. Zappos, similarly to Amazon, a great place to search and shop, and a company that really puts customer service at the forefront, because you can order as much as you want and you can send back as much as you want without having to pay shipping. So they really make the shopping experience very, very easy. Wegmans, which is a high-end food retailer. It's not just about going to the supermarket. It's about really a first-class experience, and they really do it extremely well. And I'm sure many of you who have Wegmans in your market area look forward to going to Wegmans as opposed to just going to your local supermarket. Similarly, a company like Trader Joe's, which is a little smaller than Wegmans, but certainly has its loyal followers and some great private label products like 2-Buck Chuck and a lot of the other goods and services that they offer. I have a sister that comes and visits, and she has a Trader Joe's in her neighborhood. And when she comes and visits, she'll call us because we don't have one near us. And she'll say, I'm going to Trader Joe's before I come to your house. What do you want? We'll put in our Trader Joe's order. So it has a very viral effect when you're a brand that people take an affinity to. Most recently, I had the opportunity to experience a Hyatt Place, which is it's kind of more of a I don't want to say a budget brand, but a more streamlined, business-oriented brand of Hyatt hotels. And I was very, very, very impressed with what they do, the level of service that they offer, the responsiveness that they provide, all at a very reasonable per-night rate. And I was delighted, quite frankly, when I received an email from them after my stay, and they asked me to answer a brief question, and it was the Net Promoter Score. So needless to say, out of the box, I was a promoter of Hyatt Place. Conversely, who do you not promote and why? We all have our what we might call horror stories, and I had a recent experience with that little brand logo that you see on the screen there, which has really kind of had a negative impact on my perception of the organization. And the reason we went with this company for our mobile service was a couple of years ago when the vaunted iPhone came out, and AT&T was the only carrier of the iPhone. So we said, oh, we need to get the iPhone. We'll switch carriers, and I don't think a day goes by now, for a number of reasons, that we don't wish we had stuck with another carrier who now provides iPhones. But of course, we're locked into our 2-year contract. So I'm not very focused on promoting this company. And so we all develop our emotions around different brands and different businesses. I've always felt that as we kind of advance in our experience and theoretically in our age, we also become more brand-centric as consumers. And so we really get locked in, don't we, to those brands that we really feel are really part of our personality, part of our DNA, if you will. And then there are other brands that we lock out for a variety of reasons. So promotion and loyalty really do go hand in hand. And nowadays, almost as a baseline, you have to consider, well, why would you be focused on getting promoters for your business? And it's a very, very simple equation, and that is, why do you want to grow your promoters? Well, the fact is that if you don't grow your promoters, then your detractors will take on essentially a life of their own through a lot of the social media opportunities that are out there. But that's really just kind of the first point around growing promoters. There are a number of reasons why companies want to grow their promoter base, and we're going to review some of those things, real tangible reasons why you as fitness operators want to understand how loyal your members are, and then want to make those members more promoters of your business than detractors. But certainly, if the minimum that you do is to make sure that you are doing what you can to manage a positive image through social media, that is certainly a good, positive first step. So let's talk a little bit about Net Promoter Score. And to really give it some context, we have to go back to the 1970s when a fellow named Fred Reichelt, who is a Bain & Company researcher. Bain & Company actually is a very big research company based in Boston, management consulting, and he was looking for a metric that allows companies to measure customer loyalty without necessarily sending a customer a questionnaire that has 20 or 30 questions on it. We all send out, I'm sure, questionnaires to our members, and we get responses that are often hard to aggregate, often hard to navigate. And so Fred and his team at Bain & Company were trying very hard to identify, is there one ultimate question that can be asked of the consumer to gauge whether or not they are loyal, whether or not they are promoters of their business. And they came up with what they call the ultimate question. And Melissa referred to the November issue of CBI, and if you check that out, you'll see Fred Reichelt's image on the cover, and it's a good perspective on the genesis of the NPS, and then how NPS has really it influences companies to the point where it helps to change cultures. And this is something that we hope we can bring to the health and fitness industry. So the ultimate question is, how likely is it that you would refer our company to a friend or a colleague? And it's a very simple metric. You go from a 0, which is not likely or not at all likely, to a 10, which is extremely likely. And we've all answered these types of surveys before, where folks will say, well, in the range of 1 to 5, how would you rate us, etc. So this is a larger rating scale than what we typically see. But there's a good reason for that. And that is that Fred and his team came up with a way to really analyze this metric and to get to a score that helps put companies on a level playing field when it comes to gauging customer loyalty. So what he did was, and this was through quite a bit of research and study and testing and retesting, but what he did was he broke down the scale into 3 distinct areas. In the red, you'll see that we have detractors. In the yellow, we have fence sitters. And then in the green, we have promoters. But what's very interesting about this scale is you'll notice if you give a 6 to a business that you frequent, you might think that's a pretty good score. Well, this is a very, very strict metric of customer loyalty. And so if you give a 6, if I give a 6 to your health and fitness organization, according to Net Promoter Score, I'm actually a detractor. That means I don't have much good to say about you. So while a 6 in most surveys might feel like a good score, Net Promoter Score is calling that a detractor. And then you see these 2 yellow folk, 7 and 8, and these are fence sitters. These are the people that really kind of are neutral about your facility. These are folks that really don't have a lot of opinion. They feel okay about it. They probably frequent it on a regular basis. But if you were to ask them, you know, are you really very loyal and a big promoter of this facility? You may not really have an opinion. And it's kind of like if you're sitting in a restaurant and talking to friends and you're discussing politics, and one side of the table is blue and one side of the table is red, you're the one that's in the middle, and you really don't have an opinion one way or the other. And these are people that actually show the greatest promise when it comes to understanding customer loyalty, but they also promote a threat to your business as well, because it's very easy for that fence sitter to quickly become a detractor. And it should be as easy for that fence sitter to become what is a 9 or a 10, which is a promoter, someone who is, if you've read Ken Blanchard's work, someone who is considered a raving fan of the business. So the goal of any business would be obviously to get as many promoters as they can. But once again, you have 6 chances to be a detractor, you have 2 chances to be a fence sitter, and you have 2 chances to be a promoter. So it seems like a very weighted scale, and there's a rationale for that. So here we have the NPS. Now let's assume we send out the Net Promoter Score question, which is how likely is it that you would recommend our business to a friend, family member, colleague. And you send it out and you get 10 responses. So let's look at those responses. And let's say we have 4 people that are promoters. Well, that's pretty good. 40% of the folks that responded, 4 out of 10, feel that you rate a 9 or a 10 on a scale of 0 to 10. And maybe 4 people are fence sitters. Now, if you look at it as a traditional metric or a traditional survey, 80% of your respondents are giving you a 7 or above. That might be cause for celebration. And let's say we have 2 people that are saying, I really don't feel very good about it, I'm a detractor. Well, the way Net Promoter Score works is fence sitters aren't considered in the equation. So what we do, even though you have 4 people that are rating you a 7 or an 8, they're not even part of the equation. So we take those fence sitters out. And this is why it is so very important for companies that utilize Net Promoter Score to turn those 7s and 8s into a 9 or a 10. And so what ultimately happens is you have a Net Promoter Score, because net is you take your promoters, you subtract your detractors, and you get your net. And in this case, it's a Net Promoter Score of 20%. And I don't know about you, but if I got a 20% on anything, I wouldn't feel very good about it. So it is a very strict, hard survey that really forces a service organization or an organization providing any level of service or goods. It really forces them to think in terms of not so much across the scale, but how do I maximize my ability to get folks that would give me a 9 or a 10. Now, why is Net Promoter Score such a powerful metric for businesses, and why do we feel, as IHRSA and the retention people, that Net Promoter Score would be a great metric for measuring member loyalty within the health club industry? Well, there are two dimensions of loyalty, as research tells us. There's the head dimension, the cognitive dimension, and then there's the heart dimension, the emotional dimension. So in the head, we think and we gauge businesses based on, who offers the best features, the best service, the best price. But then you think about the heart. And when you think about the brands that you're really loyal to, and give that some thought right now, what's really taking powerful control is that they know you, they value you, they listen to you, they share your own personal values. And think about the business that you operate, where people are coming in on a daily basis, they're looking to improve their lives, they're looking to improve the quality of their work life, their family life. They're looking to improve their health and their well-being, and they connect with your facility. So it's not just about having a great monthly rate. It's about going into the facility and feeling wanted, feeling cared for, feeling embraced. And what Net Promoter Score does is it probes both of these dimensions. And it also goes beyond satisfaction, because even if you talk to folks that have walked away from a brand, people have become disassociated with a brand. In my case, I'm not really feeling very positive about AT&T, but after this presentation, I will pick up my AT&T phone and I will expect my next call to be connected. And that's because I'm relatively satisfied with the service I get. So my head tells me, yeah, I'm satisfied with it, but my heart tells me these folks just, they're just not understanding me. So most defectors are satisfied, and yet they still leave. And this is a very, very important point for us as health club operators to understand, that of the defectors, and this is another Fred Reicheld research report, of the defectors that are satisfied, 80% of them say I'm satisfied, 20% are dissatisfied, and yet 100% of them still leave. So defectors can be satisfied. And the metric, the Net Promoter Score, allows us to go beyond gauging satisfaction. Another reason why it's so powerful, and these are the results of a survey that was done, or a research report that was done in another industry. But we're looking at what does the difference between a detractor and a promoter have on your bottom line. So in this center, and think about this in terms of how much a member spends within your facility on an ongoing basis, whether it's their membership dues or their non-dues revenue, their personal training, things that they would pay for over the counter. So if we have an average current spend of $1,000+ when you're able to convert someone who's average to being a promoter, so let's say that average customer would rank you a 7 or an 8, and then they become a promoter who ranks you a 9 or a 10. Adding that positive word of mouth, you could get a current average spend that is significantly higher than if it was just an average. In this survey, or in this research report. And then conversely, if you have someone who's a detractor, they're going to spend less, essentially another $700. So as you can see through the upward mobility of this graph, it is very, very helpful and very powerful to move customers into that promoter area. Let's take a look a little bit at some of the benchmark scores in a number of industries, and you'll get a sense to see how this taking the promoters, subtracting the detractors, and throwing out the fence sitters really gauges. And we have a number of industries from banking to grocery, and these are all companies that utilize Net Promoter Score on an ongoing basis. And you'll notice USAA, which is a large insurance and banking and financial services firm that typically works with U.S. veterans. They have a Net Promoter Score of 83. Now, if you start to do the calculations, to get a Net Promoter Score of 83, you need an abundance of people rating you a 9 or a 10. And conversely, you need as few as possible as detractors. Amazon.com, a 76. Go down to Apple, which is typically vaunted as one of the, really one of the most customer loyal oriented companies in the world. And yet they're getting a 71 for their hardware and a 68 for their software. Now granted, they're primarily a hardware company, but they're getting a 71 in the Net Promoter Score. So even a company like Apple, which if you were to probably think off the cuff, that Apple should score very high, perhaps 80, 90, they're getting a 71 in their Net Promoter Score. We did a study in the UK this past year, and it continues actually. It's a rolling study, and we've been able to engage more than 50 fitness organizations, and these range from individual facilities to private chains to local authorities, which are aggregations of fitness facilities run by local government, and we had well over 500 club sites represented in this survey, and they represented better than 50,000 respondents. So when you think about 50,000 respondents, if you have 20% return, you're looking at something in the neighborhood of 250,000 universe of health club members that we polled over the course of 2012. And we got results that provide really a good sense and really a good metric for us to look at and to compare ourselves to here in the U.S. market. So throughout 2012, we had 46% of our members are promoters. Now, that might feel pretty good because that's almost 50%. So 1 out of every 2 members that walk through your facility doors are promoters. But remember how the Net Promoter Score is calculated. So let's look at the detractors. Well, we had 22% detractors. And if you do the quick math, that means that you had better than 30% of members who responded to this survey gave health clubs a 7 or an 8, and they are considered fence sitters, so they get thrown out of the equation. So we take our net of promoters minus detractors, and what does that give us? It gives us a Net Promoter Score of 24. Now that is not a very encouraging number, but a number nonetheless that provides a benchmark for the UK industry to then begin to look to move up the scale. Let's see how those scores shake out by industry groups. And these are Net Promoter Score by industry for 2012. Financial services, insurance, online services, retailing, technology. Here's my favorite, telecommunications, with a Net Promoter Score of 11. And that's a very interesting range because you actually have some companies that received a minus 21% Net Promoter Score. And then you see how the travel and hospitality business did. Really, the industry that did the best is retailing, with a Net Promoter Score of 50%. So how does the UK health and fitness industry, and we'll be giving this webinar in several months, and we'll be looking at how the US health and fitness industry sizes up. But the UK health and fitness industry, with their Net Promoter Score of about a 24, really kind of falls in the middle of top industries relative to how loyal their customers are. So there's a lot of room for improvement within the UK industry. And what's a real sad revelation is when you look at an individual facility as opposed to a group of clubs. We've actually had some clubs, sadly enough, come in with a Net Promoter Score of -80%. And I don't think I have to expand upon that. That's a pretty tough number. And here's how the industry broke out by categories. So we had a 24% UK health and fitness NPS. And then you look at the different segments, and we'll be segmenting the US study accordingly. The titles will be a little different, but we do have private single facilities, and they didn't do too badly, a 55% Net Promoter Score. But then when you look at UK private club chains, and some of you on the call might actually be involved in a private club chain here in the US, theoretically that would be a hard number to beat, a -3. So there's a lot of room for growth in terms of building loyalty among membership in the UK health and fitness market. And I truly believe that as we begin to get this metric published within the North American market, we're going to see more and more clubs, club organizations, operators really focus on member loyalty and use that as a metric for success. Another reason why Net Promoter Score is so powerful is it gives us the opportunity to understand why people give us the scores that they do, and it gives them the opportunity as well to change. So one of the things, as you folks become involved in this survey, we're going to be giving you your own private personal dashboard that allows you to track your Net Promoter Score as people respond to the survey. But then additionally, we give people the opportunity to enter open-ended responses. So why did they give them a Net Promoter Score of 0 or 10? And this, in many respects, I believe is one of the most illuminating and certainly one of the things that people can respond and react to the strongest, and that is when you're able to see why someone gave you a score, you're able to really focus on where do we need to improve in our facility. And if you look at some of these comments, people don't hold back when they're given the opportunity to either praise you, or if they're given the opportunity to damn you, they will do that. So you'll see someone gives us a Net Promoter Score of 1 because the swimming pool is grotty. I think that means dirty. Or a Net Promoter Score of a 10, good facilities, easy access, friendly staff. And we're able to go into these comments too and begin to see some themes around these scores. And those themes can really focus on what's a positive and what's a negative. So in this case, if staff is a negative, well, that empowers you as the operator the opportunity to begin to change. Cleaning is a negative. That's something that can be immediately addressed. If crowding is a negative, it allows you to look at, well, what's your scheduling like? How does your Group X schedule shake out? Is there an opportunity to provide folks at a more favorable rate off-peak hours at your facility, or is it time to expand? So these metrics really do allow you to react and change on really an ongoing basis within your facility. Likewise, there are a number of good positive comments, and it might be around staff again, facilities, positive, pricing, positive. One of the things that we counsel our clients to do when they're utilizing Net Promoter Score is take a look at these comments and then grab some of the better comments that are associated with a 9 or a 10. Blow them up, big as a poster, and tack them around the room where you have your staff meetings, and use them as really a point of galvanizing your team so that your team understands, you know, these folks really do respond positively. They really do appreciate what it is we do as a facility. One thing I do want to bring reference to is a report that we recently did about the UK health and fitness market, and we're going to develop a similar report in conjunction with IHRSA around the US health and fitness market and how we begin to gauge what makes good clubs good and bad clubs bad. We're publishing right now a retention report that will appear on IHRSA.org by the end of this month. But if you want to take a look at this particular report, go ahead and go into that URL on the Retention People website, and you'll see that report, what makes good clubs good and bad clubs bad, and it really focuses on the NPS survey. So what I'd like to encourage you all to do is think about participating in this benchmark study. Our goal is to get 1,000 IHRSA clubs across North America to participate in this study. So that'll be about twice as many as the facilities that participated in the UK. And as a result of you participating in this study, we're going to give you some good freebies. First of all, we're going to give you your licensed NPS score. So you will get an NPS score benchmark that is exactly the same kind of NPS score that companies like Apple, Amazon, IBM, Zappos, Sephora, that they all tap into too as a gauge for understanding customer loyalty, member loyalty, and as an opportunity for improving member loyalty. We're also going to give you your own personal online dashboard that allows you to really track. You can come in on a daily basis, many times a day, and you'll be able to see on a global basis how the NPS is rolling out, what the industry as a whole is coming up with as an NPS score, and then additionally you'll be able to drill down into clubs that are like yours. So if you're a single site operator, you'll be able to parse your dashboard and look at an aggregate score for the single sites. So if you're coming in at a 61, you might think, well, there's real room for improvement there. But something that might be encouraging is maybe you'll look at that category as a whole, and maybe that category is coming in at a 50 or a 52. So it will allow you to really benchmark and compare your scores against like facilities. And then you'll have an opportunity to access all of your member comments as many times as you want. So you'll be able to export those to an Excel file, a CSV file, and be able to print those out. And those are very, very telling because every score has a story attached to it. And this is what you get at no cost whatsoever. It's just the only requirement is that you say, yes, I want to sign up. We'll send you a link, and the rest goes automatically. We will send out the Net Promoter Score to your entire email database and begin to gather the results automatically. And then when we're ready to report your results with you, we'll set up a quick call. We'll show you how to log on to your own personal dashboard. We'll show you how to use it, and we'll also discuss your Net Promoter Score with you. This is what your dashboard will look like. And so, and it's a web browser, so any computer that's web enabled and connected to the web will be able to access it. And here we have the name of your club. It's blacked out here. We have the number of folks that took the Net Promoter Score survey. We have the number of folks that are promoters. We have the detractors, and we have your Net Promoter Score. And then we have a comparison column. And what you're able to do within your dashboard is to compare across a number of different variables. You can compare against a sector, and we'll be setting up sectors similar to what we did in the UK. You'll be able to compare against a specific country. In your case, you may want to just focus on the US or Canada. And you can also look at how your Net Promoter Score compares across really all clubs that are involved. And so that can be very, very, very interesting to kind of review that. And then you see your scores here. When I was telling you about being able to print out your member comments, it's very simple to do. You simply push this export button right next to update here, and that will export your member comments to an Excel file and allow you to then take a look at the comments, print them out, pass them out, and take action on them as you deem appropriate. At the bottom of this, you'll see these little kind of accelerometers here, and part of it's cut off, but I'll describe it to you. Here's your Net Promoter Score, and so what is the shaded area is really where the industry is currently trending. So right now the industry is at about 23%, and your club is at a 62%. So anytime the arrow is outside the color when it comes to Net Promoter Score, that's a good score because you're ahead of the industry. And then you're able to likewise look at promoters, and anytime your arrow is outside the color, it's a positive thing. With detractors, it's actually the converse, and that is if your arrow is inside the color, then that's a good thing because that means that you have fewer detractors than the industry. So this is a fun tool. It's an engaging tool. It's a tool that allows you to really attach a metric that's globally accepted by major corporations around the world as a great measure of loyalty. And this is something that we're going to provide to you at no extra cost, thanks to our association with IHRSA. So, what do we need to do? The first thing we would recommend that you do after you ask questions, and if you do have some questions, maybe you can just start typing them in now to the question box, and Melissa and I will do our best to answer those questions that you might have at the end of the presentation. But what you can do now is just simply go to theretentionpeople.com/IHRSA, or you can go to IHRSA.org/retention, and you'll call up the sign up for the Net Promoter Score study. And these are the questions as you sign up for the study. These are the questions that we're asking, and we would suggest that you begin to ask as well. How will North America compare? How will we compare as a subset of a global industry? Who will have the best club? I can tell you where we've already started this survey. I've spoken to a number of facilities that have already participated in the survey, and right now the highest Net Promoter Score that we have seen in the survey is a 77. And if you'll recall that screen I showed you earlier, that the top industry or the top company that follows Net Promoter Score scored an 83. So that's a very, very impressive Net Promoter Score. And I've actually told that operator that that they've really set a very, very high bar. So who will have the best club? Who will have the best group? Whether it's a chain or a franchise or an aggregate of 5 or 6 owner-operator clubs, But most importantly, the question is, how good can we be? Because as retention-focused organization as we are, we truly believe that health club member retention, which is a critical part of really a profitable club paradigm, health club member retention really is gauged to how loyal your members are. So how good can you be when it comes to member loyalty? And then finally, who will buy the pints? And this is a little side bet I have with Mike Hills, who's our operations director over in the UK. And in the UK, they don't bet money; they bet beer. And I bet Mike, I think 2 or 3 pints that the US market is going to score better than the 24% that the UK market scored. But most importantly, folks, I think what you really want to take away from this is, how can we make our members more loyal? How do we increase our average length of membership by focusing on loyalty? How do we really become the best we possibly can be in a very, very competitive marketplace? And so this benchmark study, I think, will be a great start to give you a metric that you can really kind of hang your hat on to determine how well your club is doing when it comes to keeping, retaining, and turning members into really great promoters and raving fans. So that's a little bit about what we're going to be doing. Exciting thing that we'll be doing at the IHRSA convention in March out in Las Vegas is we will be giving a presentation on the results, and I think a number of you who will participate in the survey will be very happy to sit in on that presentation and see how we did when it comes to the Net Promoter Score. So that, in a nutshell, is, or in a pretty big nutshell, I will say, is what we are doing. The survey is open. You can now sign up your club, and we'll get you going on it. But we do have a few minutes before the webinar ends. So if you have any questions, why don't you go ahead and ask them, and Melissa is going to read off the questions, and then I'll do my best to answer them. Melissa. I think we have Melissa muted. So what I will do is I'll do my best to answer what questions we have here. Let's see here. Here's a good question. What is the approximate response rate? Well, it is it's a function of email because the survey itself is completely automated. So we look at email response rates as a good benchmark, and we typically look, if you have 1,000 emails in your database, we typically look at about a 20 to 22% response rate. And then the other question that's asked is, and do you feel like only the people that feel strongly one way or the other respond? And that's an awfully good question. Because it is such a simple survey, and it really literally only takes seconds to answer, and it really doesn't require a lot of heavy thinking, we find actually that that most people are very happy to respond to the one ultimate question, the Net Promoter Score. We might find that some people that are position neutral don't comment. So I would suggest that maybe the answer is that people that feel strongly one way or the other not only respond, but also provide the most fluent comments around that. Melissa, do you want to ask another question?
Sure. We have another question here. A question inquiring into the member retention report that we'll publish at the end of the month. Just inquiring on how we can receive the report. Actually, I think I might be able to answer this, Phil.
Sure. Yeah.
The report is free to IHRSA members, and we typically we'll send out email blasts announcing the report is available, as well as a press release. And the only thing that's required is that you log into your account or ensure that you're allowing us to email you to notify you of reports. So it's likely to be released by the end of the month. So as long as you stay tuned to IHRSA.org, sign up for our blog updates, and you'll be notified once the report is ready. And the next question.
Yeah, and that will be very good reading, by the way. I just looked at a draft of that report, and it's going to be very eye-opening, and I think people will really enjoy it. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Melissa.
Great. We're looking forward to releasing it. It's free to members. We're happy to offer it as a member-only benefit, and it'll definitely be great reading. The other question was, how long will the study, the NPS study, be going on? There's one attendee whose fitness studio isn't open quite yet. They'll open in a few months.
Well, that's an excellent question. We're actually going to keep this survey open for the foreseeable future. We will be reporting kind of a current state of affairs at the IHRSA convention next year, but we're going to continue to keep it as a rolling survey, and we're going to continue to work with IHRSA to get more and more clubs involved in it, because the more participation you have, really the better sample of the market that you have. So we're going to keep it open, and if your fitness studio doesn't open for a few months, not to worry. What we typically do too is that we won't send the survey to members within your facility that have been there for less than 90 days, partly because we really do believe that 90-day window, it's a window of kind of getting used to the facility. It's a window of establishing their fitness regimen and their focus on their fitness goals. And then typically after 90 days, they have formed an appropriate opinion about your facility. And another question that I might anticipate is we also will not send the survey to members in your facility who haven't visited the facility within the past 30 days. And there's a good rationale for that. And quite frankly, if you go on the IHRSA website, you'll see a retention report that we recently did with IHRSA on emails. And can emails have both positive and negative effects? And our feeling is if someone hasn't visited your club in 30 days, we don't want our email to be a club that makes a decision, or to make a decision about the club. We'd much rather have you folks focus on those members directly through phone calling, etc., to make sure that if someone hasn't attended in 30 days, that an email is not going to make them suddenly say, oh yeah, I remember I had a health club membership, and now that they're emailing me, I remember that, and therefore I'm going to cancel it because I haven't been using it. So, but that's a good question, and we'll make sure that that survey is open for you, and I wish you the best as you open up your fitness studio. Great.
Thank you, Phil. I think those are all the questions that we have right now, but as you mentioned, if any of the attendees have questions, you can contact myself or Phil using our contact details. And Phil, thank you so much for presenting the webinar today. I strongly hope and encourage the attendees here to participate in the study. It was great to see that the Hyatt Place actually had implemented the Net Promoter Score study, and it's a testament to the growing relevance of the tool. It's a simple tool, but it's very robust and really tells you what you need to know about your members, how they're perceiving you, and how likely they are to be raving fans of your club.
Well, thanks, Melissa, and thank you everyone for attending, and we look forward to getting you all signed up for the Net Promoter Score IHRSA TRP member loyalty study. Thanks.
Thanks.